So he's gonna give me pricing options.
Okay.
I didn't want to just put it until then, so I'll keep you posted.
Appreciate it.
Just crud.
But the paperwork around.
Right.
10 days ago. Real bad, headache.
It is
I
kind
thought
of
sure it
cool.
was, something like that.
Anniversary.
Saying getting any better. I better go find out about my diet. Went to
All meeting to order, please stand for the pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. So basically just one large legal services discussion, review, and an update on the Generac generator. Danielle, did you have anything in mind as far as leading the discussion? Do you want to just open the floor?
I would open up to you guys, I guess. I will just really quick before you get started. I did print a paper that's two-sided and put it in front of you guys. We had at the last meeting talked about the council meeting doing like a compiled score similar to what you guys did with me. So I wasn't really sure, but I received 4, and I apologize. The 4th one, it's just the totals of each section. So you're missing the numbers between, but I did put the 4 I received on there with their comments for you guys. And then if you're wanting me to do this for everybody, I can input the others pretty easily. I do want to notate it's got the average score on there too, but keep in mind that I have it built out in Excel with formulas. So that average score is also factoring in the evaluations I've not received. So the average is not accurate at this point.
Okay.
May I ask a question about the paperwork? So for the the 4th trustee, some reason that the A, B, C, D are not completed, was just a time factor, Danielle, or did they just provide those
Yeah,
numbers?
I think because we didn't, I just sent this to you guys today saying, hey, if you wanted me to put it in there, that they just didn't have it broke down in time to get it to me, so they gave me their totals.
Okay. Thank you.
Otherwise, I mean, I would leave it up to you guys how you want to go through this. If you have any questions for myself, I will answer them and go from there. If you have questions for legal.
Okay, and then Chief will not be joining us tonight.
I don't believe so.
That's
Sorry.
not a problem.
I would perhaps one of the first questions maybe, James, for us to regarding the 3 trustees that haven't had the opportunity to complete an evaluation. When/how did they complete an evaluation?
I think at this point, that ability has come and gone regarding tonight's discussion.
I know that one that didn't complete an evaluation, but I don't have a lot of data points.
Right. Well, that's kind of, that was part of the discussion revolving this or regarding this performance review is most of the communication is between Danielle and Chief. So we do see Phil and Dave periodically for meetings, but the day-to-day guidance is directed through them.
And I can understand where Mr. Kritzmaker is coming from. However, we had a meeting about a month ago, and it was regarding this evaluation, and one of the big things was to have this evaluation, the opportunity to evaluate. So I'm not quite sure why the council wanted the opportunity to evaluate, why they didn't evaluate. Because that was the big issue, was my understanding before. Am I correct with that, Jerry? I see you kind of nodding with that as well. So if that was the issue, then, I mean, and from what you had just stated, James, is that, you know, that was briefly discussed with Danielle and her comments and her, you know, her thoughts regarding this. And that was the whole issue, is that we had to have this evaluation, and now it's been given, and now this is what we have.
Yeah, so we can just work from this, I guess,
Okay.
going forward. I mean, then turn in an evaluation, so be it.
Okay. And you are the camera clerk. Okay.
Danielle, the comments and suggestions that are on this back page, are those the comments and suggestions that came off of the form?
Correct.
That
Those,
each-
those are from each of the 4 evaluations that I did receive.
Gotcha.
And I literally, I put them on there exactly as they were sent to me. I guess I did add numbers, because like the top box is from one person, so I numbered kind of each of their comments just to make it a little bit easier to read and for the look of it, but other than that, it's exactly the same.
What has been the normal process? Legal counsel reports to administrator? I mean, you have the daily interaction.
So counsel, legal counsel, counsel supervises them, they report to you, but I think, and I guess I can only speak for myself, but it's common practice and has been practice since I've been here with, or really, we've kind of been on together, but that I communicate with them a lot on the day-to-day stuff, and you know, if I have a question, I reach out to them, things like that, but they are available. And I think all of you, or at least most of you, have reached out to them if you have specific questions, if you guys need them as well. And then I do think that they try to provide reports and such to you guys. And I know they've done that the last few months on a few things, but the day-to-day, yes, it is the administrator.
When this is the first kind of evaluation that we've done since I've been on council, for example, with Jeff Jubai, there was not ever an evaluation / review. So I appreciate where this is coming from, and regardless of where we go with this, I like the whole process that we've been having, whomever, the engineers and things like that, and having these reviews. So I think that this is a step certainly in the right direction.
Another thought I had or question is, does legal share information with the administrator and doesn't share with counsel? That's one of my questions. If legal does share with the administrator, does the administrator share it with counsel? I mean, I have the feeling that it should just come directly to counsel through email. There's information that's out there, you know, whatever it might be. Of course, the big thing has been the forensic audit. We've gotten 2 or 3 emails, I think, from Dave about that. Another thing I'd asked Danielle about was,
Well, hold on, let's answer these questions, because I think this is the meat and potatoes we want to get to, right? So as a council, how do we feel based upon that first question?
that's good. First question is, who should legal counsel be reporting to, counsel or administrator?
Administrator.
Well, I think it really depends. If council has a question
Right.
for legal, then yes. But most of our questions would be born out of these discussions, born out of these meetings. And if they're not present, then it would be tasked to Danielle to communicate that Q&A. But as far as the chief is concerned, I don't think we need to be in the loop for any of that. We should probably not even be privileged for that information. That's Is that
I would
correct?
agree with that, because
Right.
those are criminal.
Right, right.
But I do think we are privileged with what they do talk about with Danielle. For example, on day-to-day things,
Right.
Danielle asks them a question, she gets the clarification, the information that's needed, and she proceeds with her job, which then comes to us. So
Right.
that's what I'm saying, that as far as communicating directly with us, I don't think they need to directly, I think via Danielle, that's the communication unless there's something specific like the Generac or the forensic audit that you're alluding to. Then I think that certainly needs to be addressed specifically to us, but other than that, I don't need an email, or nor do I think council needs an email regarding that. Well, do you think this ordinance and this ordinance, and then they tweak it, and then they come back, and then Danielle gives us the information. I believe that is sufficient versus them emailing us for all of that.
There's nothing precluding you from answering a question directly from a council member, is that correct?
No, there's, you know, regarding the day-to-day, you know, some of the questions are rather routine and mundane. And some are more significant as to strategy or advice on specific ordinance enforcement, or, you know, various meetings with different officials that are relevant to those types of discussions. You know, there's nothing that says that any council member can't call any one of us and ask a question as far as what's going on with a specific matter. Some, depending on the matter, some things may be more sensitive than others. You know, the thing that council needs to be cognizant of is that when there is conversations with the village's legal counsel, that is attorney-client privileged information, that such privilege can only be waived by the council, not by the individual. So you know, that's just, it's representing a municipality is somewhat unique. How much you as a council want to be involved in knowing what the day-to-day advice or work that we're doing is, really depends on how involved, how much information do you want. I don't know, as Gwen has said, I'm not exactly sure that you guys necessarily want to know all the mundane stuff that we work on, because our primary contact is going to be with Danielle, and really it's in the context of her work that she's going to give a report to you, that she just uses us for assistance. I hope that answers the question.
Does that answer your question?
If there are certain things, and one of the examples that was offered was the development of ordinances or the interpretation of ordinances and things like that. There's no exception in the Open Meetings Act that would cloak those kinds of communications in any sort of privilege. Whether you want to know how the sausage is made or not is entirely up to you, and each and every one of you is perfectly welcome, encouraged to call up and say, hey, I have a question about this. But some things are an open book. Things that relate to litigation strategy or contract negotiation, or, you know, things that maybe you want to get your collective heads together on and talk about how to proceed. Maybe those you don't have that kind of open dialogue on. You know, you use your prerogative to protect your attorney-client privileged communication. But most of this stuff comes to us from Danielle and then back to you. But again, you're welcome and encouraged to call and say, I have a question, can you help me out with this? And we're happy to do that.
I got this. Let's go. Back when Attorney Jubai was here and worked with former Administrator Joe Fry, Council had some issues with that working relationship between those two. I'm just wondering, are there any current issues between our attorneys and our current administrator from this council?
I don't see anything in my opinion. As from being on council at that time with Joe and Jeff. And seeing this council, our administrator should say, with these attorneys, I see no issue.
Anybody
I
else?
don't see an issue either. I think we're getting probably timelier updates with Danielle and Mr. Lacoste and Mr. Shadler than we did with Mr. Jubai.
I think they're much more timely as well as accurate and honest.
Okay, the next one I had is there a report, like on our bills, it just says legal services? Is there a possibility to get a report on what those are for? Or is that just something, Danielle, you can email us if we ask what those services rendered, definition of what they were?
Like a line item breakdown,
Yeah,
what they relate to.
correct.
Yeah, so. Cause they don't see the
They
whole
don't see the
bill,
end
they're
of the
getting the
bill.
report.
We just
Some-
get the invoice, or we see it on the bills, we have no idea what it's about.
Yeah, so I can give you a copy of the bill with the breakdown. I emailed you like a summary earlier that I can give you.
Okay, with the, to clarify, Danielle was probably already on that, right? Go ahead.
No, you're right.
Well, the way your invoice is generated is item specific. It's line, we give a line by line detailed analysis of the things that we do and how long we spend on them and what they are. I mean, not in great detail, but if it had to do with communication with Generac or communication with LaSalle or communication with the swimming pool contractor, things like that's on there. It says that we talked to so-and-so from Mid-States or Midwest Contracting regarding the swimming pool. And it says who we talked to and how long we talked to them. But that isn't apparently what you
Did you
see.
see this part? This is.
We don't see that,
this
no.
email
Yeah,
down.
I would like to see it broken down.
Yeah, we-
Right.
What we're actually,
If
what
you
you
were-
guys are working on and how much time.
We provide an itemized bill
Yeah,
We don't always.
to the village. You're just not seeing it.
It would just be something Danielle can or share with us.
Yes.
So I would like to see that going forward myself.
Yeah, I think you're privileged to. I would actually, it wouldn't bother me not to see it as long as Danielle is keeping tabs on it, making sure it's all above board.
Yeah, and I do,
If
so
you're
every
approving it,
month I go
I have no
through
problem.
because I review to see where it needs to be coded.
Yeah.
And then, I mean, there's been a few times they have something that I've called and questioned them and say, hey, what is this for? You put the 3 different things here for a total of 2 hours. What did you actually spend on these different items? Or not a lot, but I think I'm gonna say at least 2 or 3 probably that's happened.
Couple times.
Because you break it down into different codes to where it gets allocated.
Within your budget, within your line item,
Right.
yeah, that's where that comes in. So all of my work for the police department is all gonna be billed under that line item. And then, it's gonna be broken down similarly. And that's why we give the itemized bill that we do, so that Danielle can do that.
And I believe that that's something that in the past, Brandon, you would probably be able to allude. Although Jeff was here when you were here as well as Daniel in the beginning, those were not something that we had seen
No,
previously.
he wasn't, but I don't know if council recalls, there was the question that came up about bills that was sent to Brandon, and the
Yes.
response was sent to everybody. When we
Yes.
pulled Jeff and Frank's bills, they weren't broke down in
Right.
detail. It was just, I do want to clarify, Jeff's bills said everything he worked on, but then it was the total cost, so you didn't have it broke down like per item, where Phil and Dave are breaking it down per task.
Yeah, I think our billing provided to Danielle, to the village, I don't believe that you have had that detail of billing and that broken down in a long time.
In reference to the police department, because you're representing the village and the police department, has legal counsel ever dismissed or influenced any police issued traffic tickets, warrants?
What do you mean by influence?
Well, back when we voted, my question was, is there a conflict of interest with our legal counsel representing the village and the police department? So if our police department issues a ticket, can our legal counsel dismiss that ticket for whatever reason, any reason? Or influence it, try to have it reduced, thrown out,
It doesn't have to just be tickets, it could be any sort of.
Okay, any case,
plea
anything to do with the police? Right.
What my practice is, so when I started as the prosecutor for the village of Blissfield, I communicated, because I every municipality does it differently. Some municipalities will leave the ultimate outcome of the criminal matter up to the complete discretion of the local prosecutor. In other municipalities, they want the police want a lot more input as to what happens. So what I did, I proactively reached out to Chief Greenleaf and asked him specifically by email, and I asked him by email, I said, how would you like us to go forward as far as when I receive, whether it's a speeding ticket that someone's challenging, or you send a warrant request to me, and charges are authorized, and we go to our first pretrial conference, we have discussions of what a plea deal is. How would you like to have that? How would you like those conversations to happen? And so he and I, he provided me what he would prefer to happen, and so that's how things are. In fact, I have a file right now that's with me that I was kind of hoping I was anticipating maybe having a conversation with him if he was going to be here, because I want to talk to him specifically about it. I try to have a conversation with the chief and or the investigating officer, the issuing officer in every case that I handle. That it has not happened here, but it has happened in other jurisdictions where I have received a request to issue a criminal complaint and a warrant, and after a review of the report, I have made the decision that there's not enough here to proceed, and so I have declined to issue the warrant. That has not happened here. My practice is, and I think it's happened on one hand in the number of times that I've handled. I've been a local prosecutor for 13 years now. But when that does happen, I contact the chief and have a discussion with the chief as to here are the issues that I have, and this is what I believe is proper. I don't believe there's enough here to warrant issuing charges, and so we have a conversation about that. And in those very few circumstances where I've had those conversations, the chief of police that I've talked to has agreed with me and then I go ahead and decline to issue the charges. But that's been my practice and procedure of how I handle the prosecution with the police department. It really does not involve, when you're talking about criminal cases, and you're also talking about ordinance enforcement, which isn't necessarily criminal. It may be civil in nature. There's a lot of, I talk to everybody involved so that we're all on the same page as far as how we move forward. That's been my practice. Does that answer your question, Mr. Waters?
But it does, but you do, or you could dismiss it without any conversation.
That is my prerogative by law. But in practice, I don't. Without discussing it with either the chief of police or with the investigating officer.
So that is to say, any attorney
Any
representing a
pro-
municipality has that prerogative.
Any prosecutor, any prosecuting official, whether it's a local prosecutor for a local municipality, or whether it's a county prosecutor, or if it's the Attorney General's office. By law, they are given the prosecutorial discretion about whether they want to move forward and how they want to move forward. That is the sole purview of the prosecutor's office. It's not, that's provided by law.
With your firm joining up with Stimson, and of course, we voted against the Phoenix project because they wanted to use the ARPA funds for their. How does that fit in with us, being we voted against it, and you've joined up with that group? With Stimson was for that. Does that affect anything? Does it affect anybody here?
Well, that was one of the questions I had, is what will be the capacity concerns on that, and how will that work? Yeah.
Sure, and I appreciate the question, and I anticipated when we had made that, when we decided to, and this is something that we've been talking about, but it didn't get finalized until kind of pretty quickly. But I anticipated that was going to be a question, and I appreciate the question. As far as the Phoenix project goes, it's a dead issue. It's a dead project, as far as I know. I don't know anything more about the project than you do about it. As far as moving forward with Mr. Stimson, as most of you know, as many of you should know, he is not the chairman of the commission. He has one vote on the county commission, just like anybody else on the county commission, just like each of you have one vote on this village council. He has no administrative authority. He has no unilateral authority to make any decisions about what the county does or does not do. That is decided ultimately by the collective vote of the county commission. I do not believe, and we have this conversation, Phil and I have had this conversation with Mr. Stimson both prior to our firms joining and also since then, that his decision-making authority, his decision-making discretion of what he believes is best for the county is not going to be something that we're going to be involved in. We're going to have any influence over, and will not have. And the fact that we represent the village of Blissfield, that's not going to change. I don't believe that his independent consideration of the matters that come before the county commission is going to be affected one way or the other, either for or against the village. So no, I do not believe that there's a conflict or a problem there.
If I could piggyback on that.
So I was just gonna ask, since you've joined forces with Stimson and Associates, will there be any rate increases to the village for your services?
No, in fact, we have already submitted, and you will, for next week's council meeting, you're going to be presented with a new engagement letter. As my email to you and our letter to you before the first of the year stated that there would be. And I have sent that to Danielle. She is going to be forwarding that to you, and they're going to be on identical terms of what our current arrangement is.
Thank you.
As far as representation, Dave, what my assumption would be that it would be primarily you / Bill that would still be our representation versus Mr. Stimson attending any meetings, anything of that nature.
That is correct. Any work that is going to be done for and on behalf of the village is going to be Phil and myself.
Okay.
If there is some work that needs to be done in support of that, that's part of the reason, as I explained in our letter,
Right.
that's part of the reason why we did what we did, is because by joining Mr. Stimson's office, it provides us a breadth and some bandwidth to provide more efficient services to the village.
That was my concern on that issue. Thank you.
All right, okay. No, I appreciate the question. That's exactly what we needed to hear. Anyone else?
I have just a couple quick comments.
Go ahead.
I was just gonna say, I'll be quite honest, I am trustee number 1. Okay, I recognize I don't have to say that, but I'm gonna just say, look, those are my comments, those are my opinions. That's what I've been observing since you gentlemen have been on board. On my comments on the back, I just wanted to I do appreciate the consultation and representation both of you gentlemen have given us in comparison to our previous attorney. I sincerely appreciate that. I have talked with Danielle, I feel thoroughly, and I've also talked with Brandon regarding your billings, the invoices, and I'm very pleased with how that's going. I think that your comment, Tim, regarding more information for the billing, I think that that's a neat idea myself as well, so that we can see it. Again, Danielle, I know that you do, but it's nice for us to see that. The Generac and taking care, I mean, we're going to be discussing that, I'm assuming next, but the completion with the trusts, the communication, I appreciate all of that. One of the things I did say, I'd like to you guys to continue that type of update. Even there's nothing to say as far as there's nothing more to say about the forensic audit, for example. This is the status, and on a monthly basis, if that could, there's no new information, there's no new information, whatever it may be. I think that communication helps versus us sometimes thinking from our past experience, has it been off the radar? We know that it's still on the radar. I think that that is helpful. And that other than that, very happy with how things are rolling. I really do. I appreciate your time. I see that somebody is suggesting a portion about you guys attending more meetings. In my opinion, I politely disagree with that. I think how things have been running with you gentlemen in attendance when necessary. And we know by experience that we can go ahead and, for lack of better words, table something until Danielle talks with you, or we need to bring you here to council. I think that has proven itself to be very evident as far as being responsible with our monies. A perfect example could be, as I look at the statement here, attend the council meeting. They came, and for the evaluation, it did not take place because we were not prepared, although I thought we were prepared. That cost $250. And I think that that's shame on us. That's not shame on them. I think that's shame on us trustees. That's my comment.
In defense of the trustees, there was some substantive information exchanged during the course of that evening.
Well,
So
that is true. That is true.
don't be too hard on yourself.
Well, I'm not, hey, that meeting, I was ready to go with this whole thing right there at that meeting, so it's not me that I'm referring to.
Not being hard on yourself, it's the
No.
others.
It's, well, and Gristmaker wasn't here, so it's you boys. There we go.
Well, there's a cost benefit or cost benefit analysis to every time they come aboard, or every meeting they attend, or every
Yes.
communication they send out.
There is, I'm just making the comment, I don't think it's necessary when
Yeah.
it's being stated that they need to meet at each meeting. I politely disagree with that. I think that how things have been working has been very.
Well, I think the reason we made that decision, Danielle, correct me if I'm wrong, was because of the budget. We were trying to shave the budget down. We thought that might be one way we could succeed.
Well, just in generally, yeah, it was budget, but also because there's just some meetings where
Yeah.
they would just really sit there and so we were just trying to decide, and at that time, you guys said, let's try this and we can always reevaluate it, which I think is true at any point, but yeah, I think it was just more cost saving, so they didn't come drive over here and sit here for 2 hours and they didn't need anything. And they do review every agenda that goes before council, to make sure, like, if there's a red flag or something, that they'll call me and say, hey, did you think about this or what's going on? And the things that I know need to be reviewed by legal or that there may be questions about, I try to get to them before they even see the agenda. So we've already, when they see the agenda, a lot of times they'll see it and be like, oh, we've already covered this, we're good.
Oh, and the only other thing I might say is some of the answers that I did not understand, or some of the questions I should say regarding the evaluation. I did consult with Danielle specifically. So just to FYI on that as well.
Okay. Bill, anything from you?
Nope, still learning.
Okay. Mike?
Yeah, a lot of it we kind of just went over regarding like decision making and reporting, that sort of stuff regarding, you know, whether it's Danielle, chief or council. I guess my question is, what do we as a council see and who does our legal representation see as who are they representing? Are they representing council? Are they representing the village as a whole? Are they representing Danielle? Are they representing staff? And I guess that goes back to the communication aspect. Yeah, we're getting enough communication of what's going on. And I've been trying to lay low and let this embezzlement case handle itself or work itself out. But I feel like there's things that we probably should have had some sort of reporting on or update on when we didn't get anything. And who's making the decisions regarding the most recent, whatever you had filed, I apologize, can't remember. But who formally approved that? Was that your decision? Was that Danielle's decision? Who made that decision to
The motion.
the
for
motion.
me,
Yeah,
that's-
no, yeah.
Who made that decision and on behalf? Did you make that on behalf of us? Did you just do that without consulting anybody from the village based on what you're saying, your legal obligation or allowances? Again, regarding some of this stuff,
Yep.
we are the decision makers in this. We are representing the village residents, and ultimately, we can say how we move forward on this sort of litigation. I have a concern about that.
Yeah, and that's a valid question. And that's where there are times, and this is a difficulty with when you're representing municipalities, is that sometimes in order to be able to talk to the entirety of the public body, because of the notice requirements and the under the requirements of the Open Meetings Act, there's a time factor that goes into that. There are some instances where time is of such a the time frames are so short that in order to protect the village, there are certain things that have to be done in our discretion, not completely on our own. We'll never do anything without contacting somebody from the village. At that time, we initially
I gave them
contacted,
permission for that specific motion. I called them and I forwarded the request to them and I asked for help. And Dave provided the options and I said, let's do that.
Personally, I don't feel that's your decision to make. I
Could
feel
you-
that's the village's
Could you explain what
decision.
you're talking about, please?
there was a, let me explain it this way, there was a subpoena, and I described this in one of my emails. There was a subpoena that was issued, and the village had received a number of subpoenas asking for information. And this particular subpoena that was issued by the criminal defense attorney asked for privileged attorney-client, attorney communication between the village attorney and various officials and members of the government and of the village.
This was something that occurred a while ago. I know which one you're referring to now. Okay.
Yeah, this happened back, this
I thought
was in the fall.
I thought this was something that just occurred recently.
No, this was just in the fall. And, of course, we didn't get it. The subpoena came to the office, came to Danielle. Danielle then, called me, forwarded it to me. We had a discussion about, the issues that we saw with the subpoena. And that we felt that it was in the village's best interest, because it was asking for attorney-client privileged communication, not just from our firm, but going back to 2020. So, and I talked to Danielle. I don't know whether Danielle then communicated to, I don't know, was Bob still the president at the time? I don't know.
Bob was still president.
Okay, so, and I don't know whether you spoke to Bob or not, but, because of the timing
Let's
of,
take a
because
break
of,
there. Let's take a break there. Speaking to Bob or village president, whoever it is, that is not the way it works. This is not a city commission. This is not a mayor mentality. I want to make sure that you guys have that clear. That we make this decision as a board. It is not the mayor, it is not the village president, it is the board. And it is not the village administrator on a lot of this stuff.
okay,
We need to be updated.
can I finish my answer?
Please,
That'd be great, because then I can answer your question.
okay?
Because when you get us, when that subpoena comes in, we have an extremely short amount of time to respond to it. We either have to file a motion to quash it, or we have to respond to it.
Then we can't say we need to respond and we need 18 working hours to discuss this as a board, on how we want to move forward.
So I guess I'm gonna jump in.
This is a very sticky one because this is something that we've never been into. But again, it just falls back to who's making the ultimate decisions. And I'm not trying to stand on a podium or ride a horse or anything like that. I just want to follow the proper procedure. And I definitely want to be updated. We paid for that forensic audit. We haven't seen anything from the forensic audit. We haven't heard anything, right? I mean, I'm sure you guys have read it. Why would we have capability to see that information?
The decision to handle the forensic audit the way it's been handled was made by the village council. As I understood.
I would love to have read the report, at least the forensic audit. But I think that's stuff that should be.
But it was purposefully shrouded from,
Why?
I mean, Mike, I'd love to have this conversation with you privately.
I get it. I totally understand.
Okay, I don't think it's a good idea
I
for
agree.
us to have it.
It was a challenge, but again, I want not just that, the overall clarity of the issue. Who are the decision
The
makers?
decision
How
to
do we
do
move
that, just, and I hope we can leave it at this for the time being at least. The decision to do that was made by the village council, not by me or by the village president. That precedent was set at the time of the initial audit. And it was, I think it was on the advice of the auditor to do it that way.
And once
I wasn't there, so I can't.
Once the audit was completed and forwarded to the investigative entity, that's their investigative material. So we didn't have any real discretion at that point. Once it was forwarded to the prosecutor's office, now it's the prosecutor's possession. And any disclosure of that report is now to the prosecutor.
Well, there were two forensic audits, that's how I look at it as, so there was the initial that was done when Joe Fry was here,
Correct,
and then there was the second.
correct.
And then there was the time, Phil, when you met us in closed sessions regarding that audit.
Correct.
The second audit.
And I don't believe it had been completed at that point.
No,
It hadn't been started at that point.
Right.
The question then, and you're 100% correct. The question then was,
yeah,
how do we do this?
how do we proceed?
Because there were ramifications associated with doing it different ways.
Yes, so there was audit one, a meeting, then the second audit took place.
Correct.
Since then, the material is now out of our hands because it's part of the case. Is that the layman's way to say it?
But by and large, yeah, in a layman's way of saying, yes, it's.
We're not able to see it at this point because it is part of the case.
It is.
No, we're the quote victim, we are the defendant, not the defendants, we're the plaintiffs.
But
So we should
Plaintiff, we're not the
We're
plaintiffs.
the
Plaintiff is the state of Michigan.
But we have that determination about how we want to move forward regarding. a
No,
case.
that's not true.
We have no say.
No, we do not.
Well,
I think
I
that's where
just
some of
got,
the
I
clarification.
remember in describing, answering my question to Mr. Waters, in any criminal case, the prosecuting authority has the sole discretion of how to proceed in the prosecution of that case. The quote unquote victim, if there's a victim, in our case, and I would argue, and I've made this argument, in fact, in the motion that you're asking about, I made that exact argument to the judge, and that was ultimately successful. Is that, yes, we are the victim.
Correct.
However, that does not give us, we as the victim do not have any say, officially or legally, into how the case is prosecuted. That is solely within the purview of the prosecutor's office and the prosecuting attorney. We do not have it. We do not have any say. They may ask us, maybe, but they don't have to. And even if they do, they don't have to do what we want.
It would be in, how would you feel about if, you know?
Yeah. What do you think about these options?
but we
No, this
seem
is what we-
to be so out of the light, so we have absolutely no.
Well, we're not in the loop either.
I don't know any more about it than you do.
Yeah, I mean, it's.
When this goes to court, there is a defense, and that would be Mrs. Kester's defense, correct? And then there is the prosecuting attorney, and he is representing, he is running the show. He is the guy for us.
He's the one with the burden of proof.
Yes, he's the burden of proof.
He's
You
not
guys,
for
you
us.
guys are not the burden of proof,
We're
and that's
not.
what I think that we sometimes forget, is you are not there representing us to the
No,
capacity in that in this
You're
in
the,
this case.
the person representing you in
Yes.
that case
Is the
is Phoebe Muir.
Mhm.
She is the,
She's the assistant prosecutor.
yeah, she's the senior assistant prosecutor, I think.
Yeah.
For the Lenawee County Prosecutor's Office. She is your lawyer.
Yeah.
She is our
We are not in the loop. We do not participate in the
Yes.
discussions as to between defense counsel and the prosecutor's office.
And that's why you're
When-
not able to give us some of these updates that we're looking for,
Because
because.
we don't
We don't
know, the information that we have provided to you as far as what's going on with this case,
Have you read the forensic audit?
Have I?
Yes, personally.
Yes.
Okay,
We-
why haven't we?
because it came. to-
Specific answer? I'll answer it.
Go ahead.
On the advice of your auditor, not me. This audit was commissioned between Platt and Moran and Shadler and Koss. For this reason.
We paid for it.
Yes, sir. No question about it. I was understood from the beginning. You paid for it. You authorized payment for it. The reason it was done that way and is done that way routinely throughout the state in cases like that is for the reason that forensic audits are full of information, which taken out of context can be very damaging to a person, maybe to a person who has the right under the law to be presumed innocent until proved beyond a reasonable doubt otherwise. And what happens when documents like forensic audits become public is that there's a court of public opinion. And that person is painted with that brush.
It doesn't have to
Well,
become public though.
But wait, let me finish, because I know where you're going. If you, as members of the village council, were provided copies of the forensic audit, they would be discoverable. They would be subject to FOIA requests, and there wouldn't be a thing that you could do to protect that document from disclosure. As it is, and I don't apologize for it, it's simply an explanation. As it is, that document was provided by your auditor to me, your attorney, and as such, it's attorney-client privilege. It's protected by attorney-client privilege. Now, right up until the moment when it was turned over to the investigating officer, the Michigan State Police and the Lenawee County prosecutor, that was true. At some point, someone may file a Freedom of Information Act request for disclosure of that document, but it won't happen as long as that case is still, because it's accepted, it won't happen as long as that case is still being investigated and or prosecuted. But at such time as that case is concluded, that's fair game.
Okay.
That's as detailed an explanation of the situation as I can give you, Mike. If there was more I could say about it, I would.
Mike, if I may, fortunately, I've seen this professionally, and this is how these are handled. All the case studies I've read, this is also how it's handled. Attorney-client privilege is one of the greatest strokes of judicial justice in this country. And it's
Or injustice.
and it's used effectively across all
Absolutely, it
mechanisms.
is. It is.
But just to your.
Mike,
other
but
points as
going
well.
back to
Yeah,
case in point, something else comes down the line, anytime,
yeah.
I'm sorry, to bring back Frank, God bless, Frank is amazing. But we would, anytime something was coming down the pipe, we would personally get a letter in the mail or an email or something saying, here's an update, something's coming down the pipe, this is protected by attorney-client privilege, this is how I'm gonna move forward.
Well, and that's,
And that
I think
communication
that's
has
what we're
been
here to
very
discuss.
very broken as of recent.
Right, and we can reestablish that, and I think that's why we're having this open dialogue. And I think that's what we want to discover tonight, is how we want this relationship.
And that's different than actually providing you the document,
Yes.
the source document.
Yes, to
that
not even
would be
know that briefs are
problematic.
being filed or things like that. Read it in the paper or to hear this or hear that, that to me is unacceptable. We should at least know. And I sure as hell hope that council feels that way as well.
Why,
I would agree.
I kind of knew some of this.
How?
What did I get, I mean, you knew the forensic audit was completed.
Right.
And you knew that there was an investigation.
Yeah.
So I guess I'm not exactly sure what
That
else.
the brief was being filed,
What brief was being.
the
filed.
one regarding
Oh,
the motion, sorry, the motion to, yes, to stay whatever that request was. Who made that decision? I just want the answer. Who made that decision?
I made that decision.
I don't think that's your place.
And this was talked about before, and it's not happened since, and if it does, then I will bring it to you guys. At that time, I made the decision after talking to him and getting some additional, because I had concerns with the request as well. So I made a decision because I thought that was what's best for the interest for the village. I emailed council saying that we were gonna file that motion, which I didn't know what all that entailed, and then Dave provided additional information. In the future, I will bring that to you guys.
Okay, and I just want to clarify, because we've heard in the past that we've talked with Danielle and we've talked with Bob, and again,
Well, I know this came up before and
the
I
village
said,
president does not make the decisions.
I made the decision. I did not even call Bob. I made the decision. I emailed the council and said, I've received this request, and I received 3 of them. I responded to 2, and that was the one that I had concerns with. Not even, my concerns were more of, how am I gonna get all this documentation around in this amount of time? And what exactly do they need? And then when I called Dave, he indicated this is attorney-client privilege and other concerns outside of what I had said, here's what we could do. And I said, let's do that. So that's on me.
So that sounds like pretty standard practice as well.
Well, again, in the
protect-
future, if you
to
guys wanna
protect.
make that, I have no problem with that. Like anytime, and I know I've told all of you this, like if I do something and you want it done different, you just gotta tell me.
I'd like to add
I mean,
something.
thankfully, I've not had to bring something to you like that again, but if it does come up, then I will.
I'd like to say this, I don't have a lot of experience with this council yet, but I have a limited experience with Danielle. And I want you to know that I trust your judgment. So I want to say thank you.
Well, thank you, Bill, I appreciate that.
And after the fact of the information coming from our attorneys, it's called a phone call. And I have called them for some things that I've not understood regarding this case. And I've also talked to Danielle at my monthly or my weekly meetings with her to get clarification about this. So I'm not surprised with what's being stated here. So I hear where you're coming from, Mike, but I knew about the assistant prosecutor was our lawyer. I knew these guys weren't our lawyer, for lack of better words again. And I knew about, once it's part of the case, we're not gonna see it. I would have loved to have seen it, but I also think that obviously what Phil stated is exactly what could have happened, and I feel very confident that it would have been FOIA'd, and then that would not have been good, and we would not have a case that needs to be resolved. And going back to with Danielle, I'll follow your lead.
All right, Mike, anything, but have those been satisfied and did it further?
For the most part, yes. Other than that, yes, I appreciate you guys working on the 3 funds. We were able to break through probate. That's something we've been discussing for a long time, so thank you for that. Generac, still just a major frustration. I mean, we pissed away so much time and money and energy, literally what I want to do is take a DPW pickup and throw that thing in their middle of their driveway and take a picture and walk away. Because really that's what we do. We're just wasting time and money. Let's buy another generator. We're wasting our backup generator and we'll let that speak for itself. To me, again, why we didn't get the proper information from Mr. Jubai, it sounds like, and why it took this long.
Another
It's
conversation
frustrating.
that we.
Yes, but
Be happy to have.
it's still just a matter of fact. It should have been under the lemon law. We've discussed it for how long. They've known about it, that it's been bad for that long. It's just, again, this is taxpayer money that we're wasting on paying you guys to do this, that we're gonna have to buy another generator when it should have been addressed. We've had We've had them out there, we've had the technicians out there, Brent has made contact with them. And for us to just walk away because it's the easy thing to do,
Well, we were
it's
also,
frustrating.
we were also told.
If it was our money, we'd be personally pretty darn peeved that we're gonna have to buy another generator and we bought a lemon and we didn't get it addressed, we didn't get it fixed. To me, that's unacceptable. And again, that's not faulting you guys, it's just, it's.
No, we're finally
I
getting the
agree with
truth.
you,
Everything you
100%.
said.
Every lock, stock and barrel.
And other than that, thank you for the working with policy procedures, that sort of stuff. I know we kind of contracted out just because of the expertise in it. But again, I'm sure you guys have read over that. I appreciate that. I guess my biggest thing is communication. There seems to be not only a lot of miscommunication, or not only with different divisions and different departments and things like that. That's something I think we need to fix village-wide, government-wide. But again, just a little bit more of what's going on, I would like to see.
Here's what then we would request from you. Because we can guess at the information that you want, and then you still be not satisfied. So what I would request from you as a council is you provide us an outline or an indication of what are the types of things you want to know on a monthly basis. Do you want us to prepare some sort of report? We will do that for you. But we want to know specifically what kinds of information do you want to have. As I said before, I don't know that you necessarily want to hear about all the mundane stuff that Danielle and us talk about. But if you want to know, you communicate to us what you want. We don't know. So you're gonna have to tell us. You tell us, we'll provide it.
So
To the best of our ability.
council,
That's
I'm
what
gonna
you as
make,
collectively want.
I'm gonna make if we start getting the bills, we can review the bills. And then if we have questions, we can either ask Danielle, or we can take it directly to Phil and Dave. Does that sound like a process that we can
To be great.
Start.
Start.
and see how it evolves from there, Mike? And if we want to add some sort of monthly, quarterly report, then we can grow it from there. But if we get the bills, then at least we'll get an understanding of what's being worked on, and we can ask about progress.
The breakdown of the
or-
invoices, what you're
right,
stating.
additional information.
Nothing comes to us, with the rarest exception, but except through the village office. I mean, we don't invent things to do freely. And we're happy to tell you what we're doing and answer any question that you have about anything. And if you make specific requests, we'll give you a summary of what's going on there as best we know.
I mean, we do all kinds of things as a result of discussions with Danielle. Which when you get our bills, you'll see there's lots of things that we work on that we do. So.
And I will say, I think council knows about most of it because I report it to you, but I don't always say, when I talk to Phil and Dave about this, I usually provide the information. I will also tell you, there's times I don't. I mean, I can think of a specific instance where we had a citizen that had a question about a utility affidavit. And the citizen actually went directly to Phil and talked to him, and Phil did report and let me know, hey, I talked to them. The office had also talked to that citizen. I never reported that to you guys because there was no action. We answered their questions and we moved on. And so, I mean, if you guys are wanting more information from me, I would say the same thing, just let me know that, but I try not to inundate you guys with too much information overload on like the nitty gritty. I try to focus on the big picture items.
And I would just say if there's an instance where it's something that would need to be spoken at per se, a special meeting or a closed session, that sort of thing. There is communication that can be done, and they have been done in the past. And unfortunately, there have been members of council that have blabbed public and broken that. But again, just even a very brief outline, this is what's going on regarding litigation, this is what's going on regarding this ordinance issue, it can come to us. And by all means, I would hope that we would follow the precedent of the rule and keep that within check. But again, I guess it's just how do we improve communication? And I get it. You're trying to answer to 7 people with different expectations, and I totally understand it, as well as an administrator. So it's finding a happy line, but I think better communication is going to help us make better judgments on which way we need to go. And then I guess the other thing would just be the financials. Are we comparative to where we've been in the past? Are we spending a lot more for, for legal,
Yeah, and we did send you guys that summary. I can resend that too, right? But I think we're comparative, if not less. I'd have to go back and it's hard too, because we're comparing different timeframes from what I sent you back. Really, I think Brandon sent it.
it's been a busy year and I get that, so.
Right, and that's the other thing, because we were talking about it, the Frank worked for us for a long time. Jeff was here for a while. Right now, we have obviously some fairly sensitive issues with the forensic audit, which in itself, I think when that is closed, it's
We'll see a
gonna, the
lot more
dynamic's
Department
gonna
of Force.
completely be different, because we don't have this sensitive item that all of us, I think for the first time, or maybe not James, but are navigating and trying to not, step out of line and do the right thing on. So that'll change the dynamics. And then we also have the wastewater treatment plant, which has been a fairly large project that Phil is very involved in. And just to make sure that we're doing what we need to, and again, setting the village up.
My last question then regarding that, if we make a phone call to you regarding village business, are you billing us? How are we going about it? I don't want to nickel and dime things, but I do want to know. If there's 7 people that are calling you guys and bothering you, well, I didn't say once a week,
and here-
that potentially, again, it changes costs. And this isn't insulting or anything like that, but again, we need to be stewards of taxpayers.
I get it, and that is why, if you look at our engagement letter with every one of our municipalities is the same. And that's exactly the reason why we put it in there, is that our primary point of contact, and this was in the interim engagement letter that you all received and approved. And it was in our permanent engagement letter that you all received and approved. And you will see that it's in our new engagement letter with Stimson and Associates. Is that our primary point of contact is with Danielle and also with James as the village,
Okay, but then that's-
with the village, hold on a second. With the village president. That doesn't necessarily mean that they have more authority than anybody else. It's a matter of if it limits our communication so that we're only billing to talk to a few people. If we're suddenly getting phone calls from 7 people all the time, yes, we are going to bill you because it's time spent giving a representative of the village advice.
I 100% agree with that. And we shouldn't be consistent with making phone calls to you. It should be directed through Danielle if possible, or by email or whatever. I can think of maybe 3 times that I've called our village attorney in the past directly.
Yeah.
And all the time that I've been here. So it should be few and far between, but we definitely, then maybe that's something that we all need to talk about, is how do we decipher communication? Anything that's deciphered or that is disseminated out to the village should be sent to the village as a board, plain and simple. It doesn't go to one individual on the board. It's not the way it works. Not any village mentality.
Almost without exception. Engagement agreements between attorneys and municipalities, and it doesn't matter whether it's a village or a township or a city or what have.
Well, I
County.
mean, technically it could, because
Yeah.
again, if you need to go to the mayor, you need to go to the
Well, but
city manager, that there's a little difference.
there's usually, I'm most familiar with townships. I have experience representing at least one other village. In the village that I'm speaking of, the contact was through either the clerk or the village president. Typically, the contact in a township context is through the clerk or the township supervisor. And the unspoken, perhaps, understanding is that if a member of the board of trustees or the village council wants to have direct communication with the attorneys, he gets authorization. And it's really awkward to say, to answer the phone, Jerry Hayes is on the other end, and Jerry says, hey, Phil, I got a question for you. Hey, Jerry, do you have permission?
Right.
Yeah,
no, yeah, and that's a very valid.
Well, it's awkward.
I agree, but correspondence is from you. It's either addressed to Danielle or it's addressed to James, and it's CC to everybody, plain and simple. I would hope council
I'm
would
gonna
feel.
think
the
about
same.
it. I'm gonna think about
Well,
that.
I would hope- well,
Then
that's-
Then here's,
that's a huge
here's the
sticking point.
instruction. How minute do you want it?
If it's a letter that would go to the village president, it should be CC to everybody on this board.
I don't think they've sent anything not copied to the whole
No.
board.
Yeah,
That's in any written communication that has gone to any village council person
Okay.
has gone to all of you.
But then there's been the discussion or the dialogue of, I need to speak with Bob and I need to speak with Danielle, and I'm sorry to nitpick that, but that's.
That's
me.
a decision for you as a council to decide.
Okay,
If you don't, our engagement letter was very clear. If you didn't want that in the engagement letter, then vote to remove it.
okay.
And
I
if you
would
guys
hope the
vote to
five of
remove
you would
it,
also want to be privy to everything that happens. I sure as hell hope that the five of you, besides myself and the village president, would want to know everything that goes on, because again, it falls back to us to make those decisions as a board, as the seven of us.
if that's what, I'm fine with it. We'll do whatever, we'll do it however you
Whatever you
want.
Okay.
But that's your decision to decide. And if you don't want, if you want something different, then you let us know. But that's for you to decide collectively.
We'll have that opportunity at the next meeting when we approve that engagement letter.
Yes.
Jared, anything from you?
No, I'm good. I got my questions.
Eric?
Excuse me, the only thing I have to say is that I'm trustee number 2 on here, in case you guys didn't figure it out already. Because of my relatively short time on the council, but I did sit out in that crowd for the past couple of years on a pretty regular basis to have a pretty good feel for how things have gone since Sheila and Lacoste have been our representation. So that's all that I had to say.
All right. Well, if there's no other further discussion, thank you, Phil and Dave. Oh, go ahead, Glenn.
Because my understanding is that we'll be discussing the Generac.
Yes, so
Okay, that's what I think.
just the legal services review. That's the only one I want to wrap up right now.
Oh, gotcha, okay.
Okay, so thank you for being open and honest with us. I hope we all have a better understanding of how we want to proceed with this relationship. I guess we have a couple things to discuss prior to approving the letter of engagement next week, right?
Yes.
Okay,
It'll be on
um,
Monday.
James, I have one more question.
Go ahead.
To legal, has any of the staff seen any piece or part of the forensic audit?
No.
Sorry,
no,
thank you.
Which staff? Are you speaking
Village
of?
staff.
no.
So then, James.
Not from us. And I can't unqualifiedly,
I can't answer for other people.
I
but-
can't answer for other people. We have not shown that forensic audit to any village staff.
How else would they have gotten it?
I don't know how they would have gotten it. I don't know. All I can say is, all we have control over is.
We've been through this. There are 3 people who are privy to that report. 3, Four.
3 entities. 4 entities.
4. Myself, the investigating officer from the Michigan State Police, the Lenawee County Prosecutor's Office, and the
And the
team of people who prepared. And as far as I know, no one else has ever seen that document. Now, Mr. Lacoste, it may be that the prosecuting attorney is obligated by law to share it with the defense attorney. I don't know. If that's the case, I don't know that.
Those would be disclosures and conversations between the prosecutor's office and defense counsel that we're not privy to
through the discovery process.
through the criminal discovery process.
Right.
So technically, there's no way that any staff would see it. I mean, there shouldn't have. There wouldn't be really a way for a staff to see it then.
There should have,
Have village staff? No.
there shouldn't be. That's correct.
As far as next week is concerned, is that when we'll discuss the attorney's attendance at meetings? Is that what your anticipation is, or is that something that we would discuss this evening? I didn't know how much of a discussion we want to have next week regarding the attorneys.
That's a
Like
good
change
question.
the wage schedule or the fee schedule, like big time. I mean, if we're having them come to every meeting, so we can't prove something next week when it's written as what,
I
every
just-
second meeting or whatever.
I'm just bringing it up because I don't want it to be discussion next week if that's what our,
Let's get the
Rationale
update on the Eagle Road generator, and then if we have time, we'll discuss that. That's what we plan.
Okay.
All right, Eagle Road generator update.
I sent an email summary to everyone. I can say with confidence that everyone received that. Mike, I think, has described this situation as completely and as forthrightly as it can be explained. This adventure began 7 years ago. Is that right?
2012 we purchased it.
2012 or no, I don't
It
think.
first failed on April 30th, 2014.
Right, I think it
months after.
was purchased in 2012. You're right. You're absolutely right. The first failure was we had it for less than a year or just more?
14 months. Yep.
It was, when it was purchased, it was purchased with a 2-year warranty. The next episode, as I recall, was approximately 1 year later. Is that, am I getting that right?
Unit failed a second time on January 8th, 2016, 35 months after the warranty period began.
And 15 months after the warranty expired. If, I'll say this and I say it with all due respect. If anyone had done anything affirmative about that situation within those 2 episodes, because the then village manager observed to a representative from Generac that her contention that the unit wasn't still under warranty was rubbish, because the unit suffered the same problem twice. It was the same problem each time. It was the flywheel. And he was right. I'd have to tell you, without equivocation at all, that he was absolutely right. And if anybody had done anything affirmative to preserve that cause of action at that time, we would, I think, I could say with some confidence, that we would have prevailed, whether it would have been in Lenawee County District Court because the amount in controversy was under $25,000, or in federal court in Detroit, because Generac is a Wisconsin corporation and we're a a Michigan corporation, and as Mr. Riley observed at one point, there was some likelihood that Generac would have moved to remove to remove the case to federal court based on diversity jurisdiction. There would have been a lot of money invested in it, in getting to that. Some would say good money after bad. But the bottom line is nobody did anything. And by the time we got the file, the statute of limitations for a defective product had run. Now, we talked at one time about the 2x4 to the head and getting the mule's attention and so on and so forth. In addressing that more thoroughly and researching that more thoroughly, in order to bring the 2x4 to bear, as it were, we would have had to file a frivolous complaint, knowing full well that the statute of limitations on that claim had run, and then dealt with the ridicule of the judge and perhaps an award of costs for having done that. And so on that basis, we did not employ the 2x4.
What is the statute of limitations?
4 years.
4 years?
Yes, sir.
So 4 years, nothing was done.
So where
6 years, nothing was done.
6 years. Right.
So where are we at now? So
Buying a new generator and chalking it up to a bad experience.
okay. So we've exhausted all possibilities through you, through our legal channels.
You know, the people that I have tried to talk with at Generac have been very sympathetic. They've tried to be as helpful as they possibly could. Miss Oliveras, the lady who I think probably has final authority over whether they're going to help us out or not, has ghosted us totally.
I mean, not sympathetic, because obviously they know it was the same flawed part from the get-go. It was the same flywheel.
Empathetic, how's that?
Right? I just don't understand. I mean, they could make this so simple. All they need to do is come out and fix it or repair it or whatever. I'm sure there's probably good parts still on that generator because the darn thing never runs. You know, it's literally brand new. So I just don't understand why we've discussed it. I mean, it's all documented here. We could probably go back and get all the emails back and forth. I'm sure Brent's documented it. I'm sure, Mr. Wanacott had documented it. I'm sure we have invoices or paperwork or something that says that they were out there and this is the same issue.
I
If
have
we lost
lots
that
and
stuff,
lots
then-
and lots of documentation.
Mhm.
I would have appreciated more. There are holes in it. I'm not gonna lie.
Brent did provide his file, which I gave to them, and we did do searches to see what we could find in our email. So we did find a couple different inspections where they went out there and it was that flywheel, they replaced it and have that information. And Phil does have that, but, and I don't want to speak for him, but I did want to let you know that we did go through all of that to find whatever we could to get to him, all of that information.
I think Phil summed it up in his email to us saying, I cannot in good conscience recommend investing time, money, and energy in pursuit of a legal solution. The cost of doing so will almost certainly exceed the price of a new generator and ultimately amount to nothing. I think he stated that very clearly to us.
I did get a price for a generator over there as well, just because I didn't know if it was something you guys wanted to factor in moving forward, but it did come in about a little bit under $23,000. Just again, kind of FYI, so you can weigh your options. We do have it in the budget. It was budgeted the last year and we didn't spend the money, kind of waiting to see if legal would be able to come to some resolution with Generac. And then those funds were carried forward. So currently we have 30,000 budgeted. If we go that route, I mean, we're ready to, we would go get quotes officially, because I did just work with a company letting, saying, hey, we're needing some information here just to make a decision. But we get official prices and then that'd be presented to you guys, because obviously the amount's over the 5,000 and you'd approve it. But just, again, I don't know if it helps with the decision or what you want to do or not.
I mean, we're almost a decade deep since the start of all of this, and while I hate to see us cut and run, I think that's probably the smartest thing to do at this point.
Yeah, it doesn't feel like cutting and running though. I think we've exhausted what we feasibly can. Any further investment is just not worth it.
So I'm just gonna ask, so when we purchase a generator like that, do we also purchase a maintenance or a maintenance agreement with them as well? Or how does it go from a part getting replaced?
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, Generac is done with it? I understand the warranty. I understand 2 years is what the warranty was. But I also am under the impression that the warranty had expired and they still made a repair to it. But maybe I'm wrong. I just need to know.
So we don't contract with them for the service or the preventative maintenance of that machine. They, whenever they quote it or if we bid it out, depending how we do that, they provide whatever warranty is going to be with it. Or if we're looking, we typically would spec out what we want. If we're wanting a 1 or 5 year warranty, or if we're saying, you tell us what your warranty is, this is the machine you want. And then our DPW does the preventative maintenance on most of all of our generators. We have, since this happened, have worked with, and I'm drawing a blank on the name. It's a company that comes in, but it's separate than, they don't sell generators. They just come in and help us service them and work on them, or if we need parts for them, things like that. But it is separate from whoever we purchase it from.
Okay, and I understand that, but I also think that if somebody who does repairs on that generator needs to be certified and trained and stuff, otherwise it voids everything if they're not.
They always send out a technician, correct, it wasn't Generac, but it's whoever is legally, whatever, to qualify to work on a generator, it's a contract or whatever, but yes.
Yeah, and I guess to clarify too, when I say DPW does preventative maintenance, we have a new generator that's in a warranty, we're getting our warranty coverage for any of that maintenance. I'm saying referring to them doing maintenance when it's outside of warranty, we own it, it's paid for, and we're just taking care of it to make sure that our equipment, we're getting as much life out of it as possible.
Thank you.
We didn't go with the Generac at the wastewater plant, did we? I'm serious.
I don't think that it is, it's,
Kohler.
Yeah.
that's what I think
It
is
is
Kohler, yeah.
Yep.
I think that we specifically had that conversation, if I remember correctly, yes, I think that question came up.
Was the one that you priced for the 23,000, Danielle, was that a Kohler or was that a Generac?
Honestly, I didn't look
I'm
that
just
closely,
curious.
I'd have to go back and look at the quote.
Just curious.
And again, that was just a reference point for you guys with your decision. I'll get official quotes and we
Is
probably.
that something we have to
will
make a
not
motion on,
look at.
James? or-
We wouldn't make a motion. I think we just make a directive to get an official quote to replace it tonight.
Well, we should, well, we can't make that directive, but we should, because again, we budget for this stuff, and that's the kind of thing that we've been dragging for, this past 2 years. We talk about, okay, we gotta get this bridge fixed. And what have we done with him hawing around on literally moving forward on this stuff, so.
Well,
again,
we were
if
waiting for
budget for
legal
this stuff, let's,
first.
yeah, let's jump on this stuff, if it's in the budget, let's get on it and let's move forward, because we've already approved that, so yes, let's just move forward with it.
So if everyone's in agreement, go ahead. Put that up to bid, Daniel. All right, so that went pretty quick. So yeah, Gwen, let's talk about legal services present for every meeting.
James, if I may, when we made our proposal back in July of 2021. And when, for the interim position and for when we submitted our proposal in early 2022, we also quoted what an annual, if you wanted to have us come to one meeting a month, we quoted you, and this is typically what we do with other municipalities, is that if you want us to come to one meeting, then what we would do is if you would pay an annual retainer at the beginning of the year, and that would pay for all of our preparation for and attendance at that regularly scheduled council meeting for once a month. So based on our hourly rate, of course, it'd be a because you're prepaying it, basically, there'd be that's a discount than what we would, if you had us come and we charged our normal hourly rate for the entire time. So that information is there. Maybe provide that to Mr. Rogers and Mr. Gritzmaker, since they probably didn't see those, so that they would know what those are. But we did provide that information to council if that's what you want us to do, but that's totally up to you.
Okay.
We do ask that if you do want us to come to a meeting once a month, I request that it be at the second meeting, and these are discussions that we've had because we have other obligations on the first meeting of the month.
And I guess it boils back to my original question is what we paying, for these legal services. You're saying it's comparative, but in the past we had legal representation at every meeting in the past generally. So again, is it costing us more money for less quote services because they're not attending? If we're paying the same, that means obviously we're calling them or emailing them, or we're making more, questions of them.
But we
So this is something that we could solve here, where we're not calling them, we're not, bothering them, we're not.
we stated that those were things that, I just lost my thoughts, sorry, Mike.
I'm just saying, we got a lot of answers to questions that we had in the past at a meeting while they were here, because they could just rattle that off and give us an answer rather than, they would provide us a very direct answer rather than sort of wishy-washy or not knowing the full information or having to make a phone call later on or whatnot. We have that information. I thought that was valuable in the past.
So you're saying essentially, Mike, you would like it to be at the second meeting of the month?
I would prefer that, yeah, I would prefer them to be at all, but obviously we're trying to keep costs down and provide the proper services and whatnot, but again.
My preference would be to be as we are, as they come as needed.
So I can pull those fees again. I'll provide them to you because I know I have them. I provide them to you guys in the weekly summary that I send you guys. And what I could do is place because it's over my approval limit anyway, so I could place it on the agenda as a separate item with the fee, seeing if that's something that you guys want to approve and we can start with the one meeting. Since we can't this is just a committee meeting and we don't take action here, and that way it's on the agenda if nobody has a huge objection to that plan.
I'd like to see it. I mean, just to have it updated and
If we do change the structure of the services, would we need to amend our budget amendment for something like that?
I'm gonna look at that as well, and so when I put it on the agenda, I'll provide that information and let you know what we're looking at. And 'cause I do know right now we're slightly under budget, but it's hard to project out because I don't know what our future legal needs will be either. But I'll give you here's where we're at, here's what we're looking at kind of summary.
And you stated that it's not been a typical 2 years either.
Right.
Any other input?
Oh, thank you, James.
No. All right. Any other statements, questions, curiosities?
So next week when we meet, we're gonna be discussing, we'll be looking at the paperwork from Citizen and Associates regarding the fees
Yes.
and what the cost will be without without attendance, what it would look like for one meeting attendance. And then we're gonna go ahead and make a decision next week, a motion supposedly, after we receive this information and after our discussion today,
Yes,
whether to retain or not to retain them as attorneys.
correct.
That's what I just need to clarify. Thank you.
We also, don't we also on Monday have the meeting with LaSalle?
Yes.
Is one of either David or Mr. Sheeler gonna be here?
So David had already planned on being here for the engagement letter and I feel like something else. I talked to them earlier, they were gonna talk between each other to decide if Bill was also attending, so I don't know if they have decided that or not, but
And that's
one
one
of them, if not both, will for sure be here.
Yeah, I will certainly be here in person.
I believe I have a conflict that night, but I will make myself available for, I'll certainly bring Dave up to speed. And I'll make myself available in the event that anybody has any questions that I can be of help.
There's nothing else, I guess I'll adjourn the meeting.
Thank you, James.
Thank you.